Hey guys, it's me, Bonnie, your host of the Grieving Girl Podcast, and today I have my dear friend, Ethan Blauner, on the podcast. I actually think you're only our second guy, and this is very exciting
Oh,
for me. Yay! Welcome on the podcast, Ethan. How are
thank
we doing
you.
today?
Thank you so much for having me, first off, Bonnie. And I've never seen someone smile so much saying that they are grieving. So I appreciate it and I totally understand it as well. And you are bringing light to this topic, which needs light. And I'm a fan already. So
Oh, thank you.
thank
Yeah,
you for having me.
it's the you get thrown on stage like 1 week after your dad dies at 14 and you're like smile, you're on stage and it's never left. So even when I'm talking about sad things I smile because it's like the performative coping skills that I've probably just groomed for how many years at this point, 21, 22 years from when I lost him. But yes, I just felt that this topic, although everyone goes through it, no one talks about it. I do think that is changing with the social media, which thank God. But I also think there's like a lot of like soapboxy conversations on it, and that's why I never wanted to just like get on a microphone by myself. Just why I like inviting friends in because it's not linear, but it's universal. So, yeah, Ethan and I work together at Switch Playground. So if you're tuning in and you're someone from Switch, holler, holler.
Shout
And you're like,
out.
what's Switch Playground? Well, those
Either
who know
either
know.
you know or you don't. You're in one of the groups.
That's it. You either know or you don't. But good times were had back pre-panny NYC days. All right, Ethan. So let's dive into it. If you wouldn't mind sharing, um, obviously you're on a grief podcast. Who did you lose? When? What are you willing to share?
Yeah, for sure. Well, this is something that I also talk about quite a bit. I do have a podcast. We don't talk about this as much on the podcast as we may in the future,
Hmm.
but grief has become a huge part of my life, and so I love talking about this stuff, and I know how helpful it is for myself to talk about it and also to help other people. And I actually have really done my best with language around it to say my dad died. And the reason I don't say lose is because I'm okay with the word died, death, he's dead.
Hmm.
I have to tell myself that because if I say lose, it just doesn't hit the same. And I know that sometimes we use that to comfort other people who may not be comfortable with the word, hey, my dad died. Like, even saying that sentence,
Mm.
I find when I'm talking to people, I'm like waiting for them to say it because I know when it actually leaves their mouth that it's a powerful statement. And for me, my dad died 18, now 19 months ago. So
Mm.
a little bit over a year and a half ago. And for a time, and we can go into the story. I ask people when they ask me how he died. I said, "Do you want the short, the medium, or the long story?" Because there's a few different versions of it. But he was actually lost. We lost him. He was essentially off the grid, no phone. We couldn't track him down, and we had to go find him in order to see if he was alive or see where he was. So I say he actually was lost. We did lose him, but then thankfully we found him and had closure. I mean, he died, but we knew where he was and we got closure that he was dead instead of what a lot of people do go through, which is someone just being gone and not even having closure for where that person may be. That to me is a whole nother type of grief
Yeah.
that I don't necessarily know how to deal with myself because yeah, thankfully we got some closure. And I feel like telling this, I have to tell part of the story because people who are listening are like, what the heck happened?
Yeah, you
So,
can you share whatever version you want to share.
yeah. So, October 7th, 2023 was a pretty horrible day for Israel. And this is no politics because that's a whole nother side. But essentially, my family's Jewish. My dad was lived in Israel when he was younger, and he saw what had happened on October 7th, and that really affected him. And essentially, after that happened, he called me. He's like, Ethan, don't tell your mom or your brother. I don't want them to get worried, but I'm going to go down to Israel and help out.
Mm,
And I was like, Dad, you, there's nothing you're going to be able to do there. First of all, it's so dangerous. There's no reason you should go down there. Do what you can here. You have a community here. You have people here that you can actually help. Don't go down there. My dad was not someone who liked to be told what to do, especially if he had an idea already. He had his mind made up, and he flew down to Israel. Yeah, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks after that. And when he got there, I think he called my uncle first because I didn't know he was leaving. He told me he was going to go, but he didn't say, "Hey, I'm going to the airport." He sort of just
mm,
hopped on a flight. And still 19 months later, when people ask me what happened, I don't have a very specific answer, but I tell people that he had what I call a psychological mental breakdown. He called my family. He said, I messed up. I lost all this money. I made this huge mistake. And we were like, Sid, Dad, what are you talking about? Like, whatever you did,
right.
like, don't
We
worry
can
about
fix
it.
it.
We're gonna
Right.
we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. What we care about is the fact that you're now in a very dangerous situation, and we want you to come home, no matter
Right.
what. And for whatever reason, whatever state of mind he was in, that message he couldn't receive that. He couldn't hear that, receive it, understand it, believe it, let himself believe it. And he said, no, no, I got to stay here. Meanwhile, him and I at the time were working on opening up a gym together. And the gym was actually named after him. He knew that. He was helping me with it. It was called Sid's Gym. And we were gonna open in Chelsea in Manhattan. And I'm like, Dad, we're opening the gym next week. You gotta come back. He's like, I'll be back. I'll be back. I'm like, okay. But that phone call really worried us. And he's like, I gotta go. He left. Thankfully, he had a few friends down there who he ended up contacting and seeing in person. So we knew that there were at least some people who could know where he was at. So we started trying to contact them. And my dad was kind of in and out of contacting us. He would call, but then he would be away from his phone and there'd be no way to hear from him. And I think it was the next day where he called, or his girlfriend at the time. My parents were separated for I think about 8 years at this point, but his girlfriend called me and she's like, "Hey, I'm on the phone with your dad, but he's not being coherent."
Mm,
And I get on the phone with him, and he's seemingly sitting, lying down, just making noises. It sounded like he was crying like a baby, and it was just like for legitimately an hour. And I just held the phone. I'm like, Dad, where are you? But it just same noise. The way I remember describing it when I first told the story was it was like it sounded like he was crying to his mom, like a baby.
mm,
And we just sat on the phone and tried to get him to talk, but he was totally out of it. Thankfully, that friend that he had contacted knew what hotel he was staying at, and they got to the hotel. They found him. He was by the time that the phone call was over, he was passed out. They picked him up, called an ambulance, took him to the hospital. They realized he took some pills and drank, which was rare. My dad was not a drinker, never really did drugs growing up, just wasn't that person around me. Perhaps before I was born,
Yeah.
from stories I've heard, he was that. But my life, thank God, he was very uh he was clean. He was clean, which from many stories that I've heard, I was blessed to have a dad who thankfully was able to get it together when I was born. But so him drinking and doing pills was out of the norm but for sure. And we they took him to the hospital, and at this point I'm like telling my mom, I might need to go to Israel and bring dad back because he's not in a good state. And then of course my mom is freaking out because this
Yeah.
is mid wartime essentially. And I said, Mom, there's no one else who's going to be able to do it. It has to be me. There's
Yeah.
We would normally send dad down here for something like this, but he's the one who's in it.
Right.
And she begged and pleaded, and I said, okay, we'll give it to the morning. We'll talk to him when he's sober, and then we'll go from there. And they mm, basically helped him get clean. They gave him IVs and fluids, and he woke up the next morning. And my mom, him and I, because him and my mom still talked, but we all talked on the phone in the morning, and it was as if nothing had happened.
Mm.
He was like, "Oh yeah, I remember we talked yesterday," and I'm like, "No, you don't, Dad.
You're like,
You
there's
did."
no way.
Like, there's just no chance. You were incoherent. He's like, "No, I'm fine. I'm with my friend. His friend was at the hospital with him. They went to get a coffee together. It was just it was so casual, but."
Mm.
You zoomed out. It was like, Dad, you're in Israel right now. You just got sent to a hospital because you drank yourself to passing out. This is not you. This is not normal. This is not typical behavior. But he was just so able to play it off and calm people down when in reality the situation was just so far from calm. And that was, I believe, the last phone call we had because after that he his phone went off. And what we found out was in Israel, whenever there's a potential threat or attack, they will literally put off, these sirens will go off around the country. And that means like take shelter because there's an attack. And
Yeah.
you don't know if it's 2 feet away from you or, hundreds of miles away, but essentially take cover. And I think when that happened, he was getting a psych evaluation from a doctor. And because the alarm went off, they had to take cover. And when he did that, he essentially just left the hospital and just walked out, which, he's not a prisoner. He's not in jail. So you're allowed to leave. They don't recommend it, but you're allowed. And so he walked out. And that was when we decided here back home that we were going to go visit him, or not visit him, try and find him because his phone went off. We didn't know where he was. His friend said, yeah, he left. I don't know where he is. And my mom reluctantly agreed to let me go. And I say I was 27 years old. Like I could decide to go, but seeing my mom distraught about me going, that affected my decision making, and I didn't want to kill her from a heart attack by
Right.
me going. And I know how emotional she was, and I totally understand. She's a mom. That's what she's supposed to do, and
Right.
uh, I'm glad she felt at least comfortable enough to let me go. So we go down. I went with my cousin and I went with my dad's girlfriend because I'm tight.
Whew, thank you.
And we flew down, and The gist of what happened is his phone was off, so he couldn't contact him. We went to Tel Aviv, which is where he was staying. Went to the hostel. I think he stayed at like a weird hostel, which was interesting. It was like a very not nice hostel. I mean, it was fine, but he could have afforded to like stay somewhere nicer. So that was like an interesting detail. We went to the hospital. They had no idea where he went. They just said he left. We went to the police just to give them his photo and just say, "Hey, this is what happened." They were so confused. They're like, "What? What the heck? Like this American guy just came down. Now he's missing." We're like, "Yeah, I know."
You're like,
And
the timing is crazy.
yeah, like, they were. You could just see their look on their face every time we told someone. They're like, "So he was here for October 7th?" They're like, "No, no, he went after." They're like, "Okay, what was he doing here?" And we're like, "Yeah, we just said he came to help because seemingly that's what he wanted to do." And he didn't contact us for since that hospital visit. So my cousin and I, my dad's girlfriend, actually her brother lived in Israel, so she went with him, which was like a little bit outside of the city. My cousin and I just started walking around, literally just thinking we might spot him. I mean, we're like on the beach, hoping that he was just.
Yeah, like, what are you supposed to do? Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you're trying every option. It's like, at some point, it's like, yeah, just start walking around and looking. Like, what are you supposed to do? That's like,
yeah.
I'm sure you felt very helpless almost.
It was a really weird feeling because we're walking around. It was November, no, late October, and we're in this beautiful city. And I love Israel. It's a beautiful country. We're on the beach in Tel Aviv where I have incredible memories from a couple trips that I've taken. And, I usually have gone, like the few trips I've gone have just been these incredible experiences because I haven't gone to Israel that much. So all the times I have are such good memories. And then now I'm here and I'm like, I'm literally trying to be in tune with my emotions, but then logically thinking like, wow, I am in this amazing place, but I'm trying to find my dad who is missing.
Right.
And like it was really hard to just be present and feel the feelings that were associated with that experience and like even just understand what I was feeling. So yeah, we did that for like 2 days, couldn't find him, and my mom was like, Ethan, like you should just come back no matter what, even if you don't find him. And actually, one of the days, I don't even know if I told. I don't think I definitely didn't tell my mom this at the time, and she'll probably watch this. And maybe I've told her since, but I remember one of the days, one of those alarms went off when we were walking on the beach, and like my cousin and I had to run inside of a hotel and like go into a stairwell just to take cover.
Yeah.
And my cousin was not scared, and I wasn't so scared, but I just thought, oh my God, like we're really in this right now. Like we
Yeah.
just came from New York and we're like in the center of this war in theory. I mean, we weren't like on the battleground, but we weren't far. And I thought, okay, I need to go home. Like I don't want to die here trying
Yeah.
to find my dad who just made a stupid decision really to come here. And I think I told my mom like I'll come home tomorrow no matter what. And that next morning we got a call from his friend who's with him in the hospital, and they said that they found a body. We need to come identify it. Since I was his son, I was the one who was meant to identify if it was him or not. So we go to the morgue. The lady greets us. I meet my dad's friend for the first time, I think. Or no, maybe we had seen him the day before, but my dad's friend basically. No, no, I think it was the first time I was meeting him. We had talked on the phone, but he met us at the morgue. He spoke Hebrew. My dad and him met 40 years before that. And the lady walks us in. She says, "Hey, we found a body. You need to identify him." you're his son, so it's your job to do so. Just a warning, he's not going to look exactly. Well, first of all, we're not 100% if it's him, but if it is, he's not going to look exactly like you remember because they pulled his body from a river, and we don't know how long it was there for. People found him who were like kayaking or something. I'm like,
Oh,
okay. And she takes us to the back. She goes, "Oh, also, by the way, because of what's happening right now in Israel, there's a ton of like extra bodies that we have in the morgue, so we can't even give you a private like room. Like basically, he's just going to be right in the back on a gurney." And I'm like, okay. So we go to the back, and like the first thing I see is just like a gurney with a sheet over it, which I don't think I've ever seen that in person. And like even without knowing if it was him or not, I just like turned around and started crying and just kept telling myself like, "Oh my God, why? Like why?" And she's like, "Okay, you ready?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes over and she literally stands next to it and like takes the sheet and like pulls it back. And as soon as she pulls it back, I like look for like a quarter second. I think I see what I thought I saw was like flies like coming off, and I like turn my head and I don't look. And I'm like, I can't look. I can't look. And my cousin and my dad's friend end up being the ones that look and identify him. And she like pulls up the bottom of the sheet, which is where he was wearing sneakers. And I noticed his shoes. And I don't know if at that moment I looked on my phone to look at our last photo, but I clocked the shoes he was wearing. And you'll appreciate this fitness reference because I look back at our last photo we took together, and the last photo we took was him wearing those sneakers after my he took my last Rumble boxing class that I had taught before I left and quit to open up Sid's gym. And it was the first time he had ever, and he never came to Switch. It was the first time he ever took one of my classes.
mm,
So I'm like, okay, I see the shoes. Like that was my closure. And we left the morgue and it was like, okay, like that was my dad. He fucking died, and found him in a river. And came back home, and they were trying to figure out how to essentially bring the body back and all the details with the funeral and stuff. But you know, from that moment till now, it's still me processing and coming to terms with the reality of that situation. I think it's so easy to disassociate, which I definitely was for the time in the beginning, and not really be present with the reality of what was truly happening at that time. And now it's just me like catching up and
yes,
processing so that I can be more and more present with the reality, because sometimes I'll wake up and I'm not ever not thinking about my dad. So I'm very aware. It's not like I'm like, oh, he died, but like sometimes I'm like, wow, like my dad really died. Like it was so quick that I'm still like, oh shit, yeah, that happened. So it's really important for me to continue to talk about this and put myself back in the shoes at that time to just be more and more present and aware of what I went through and the unfolding of events that took place that led me to, you know, finding him and getting the closure that I might not have had I left.
right,
And I'm like, we're, we don't know.
right,
And thankfully I went down. Thankfully I flew. Thankfully I did all the things that we did to make it happen. I think about that a lot. Like, what would have happened if I didn't go to Israel? Like, would they have ever found him? Would they have known who it was? How would they have identified him? Like, would they have just put him with other bodies and just said, I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I mean, there's just so many, I mean, even just your situation alone, like the high stakes, even just around getting to Israel at that point, being in Israel, your dad being there, and then you going there, like that is also wildly heightened. You know what I mean? Like just being there is heightened, and now you're like looking for your dad, who you're like, what is going on mentally that we're even, you know what I mean? Like just like worried, and then like not knowing that's like it's like a very high stakes situation, and then just to like come home after and just be like, oh, and now I'm back here in America without my dad. Like that's, I'm sure that is wildly out of body. Like
yeah,
it,
out of body is a good way to put it. I went to therapy like pretty quick after, and I remember talking and telling the same story and just thinking, I know I'm saying it, but I
right.
don't feel like I'm living it. It doesn't feel aligned with like it feels like I'm telling someone else's story versus like no, that was me living that experience. That was my reality. I'm not like
Hmm.
telling a movie script or like a TV show that I watched. Like I was that TV show
Yeah.
for that time.
And
So
that's, that is like the disassociation from it, because like if you attach yourself to it, it's like way harder to get through. I always feel like that when I tell like people about my mom, all of a sudden I go from like having like all this personality to like, poof, and it's like the words are coming out and I know that it's my story, but I feel so like if I don't kind of remove myself from what I'm saying, then like I won't get through it. Like I have to almost detach so I can get the story out, and it's very just like a little bit stoic. The words are coming out. I know that they're mine, but it doesn't seem like it's my story. But I think that's like your brain protecting yourself.
mm,
Like it's like a survival tactic. Like it's wildly traumatic what you went through. Like that's not, a story that, we've heard before. Absolutely not. That's, you know, a very unique and high stakes situation.
yeah. And for anyone who knew my dad, people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that like he died like that." I'm like, "Yeah, but if you really think about it, my dad was that crazy in real life. Like he wasn't going to just die peacefully in his sleep. Like that wouldn't have made sense for my dad.
Yeah.
Like he needed like I think my mom posted this on Instagram like he literally died the way he lived. Like absolutely crazy, wild, didn't make sense but did make sense and it was fitting for
Mm,
the type of person that my dad was. He was just that sort of crazy guy and he died in a crazy way. So as wild as the story is, it very much matches the character he was
mm.
in real life. And if these things are put into TV shows and films and different things, like this story isn't like oh that doesn't make sense. Like oh yeah that works for this character arc if
Yeah.
we really break down who Sid Blauner was in his life and like why he would go to Israel to do this.
Yeah.
What a wild idea. But yeah, thank you for listening. That was definitely the, the, the longer version. Some details still uh were oh are we reconnecting?
Oh no, it like buffers sometimes.
There were some like small details. I mean, one was that my cousin's dad died that week as well. So I was standing at my cousin who's 2 or 3 years older than me. I was standing at his dad's funeral.
Mm,
No, knowing my dad was in Israel, as my cousin's giving his dad eulogy, and all I could think in my head was, "Am I gonna have to do this next week?"
yeah.
So I couldn't even be present to grieve with my cousin whose dad had just died, and
Yeah.
there was just so much happening at that time to process. And I think like literally now is when I'm processing it, and I'm able to in a calm, now more relaxed time,
Yeah.
let those emotions come up and let them pass through me, because at that time it was impossible.
Well, it's sudden, it's traumatic, and your body like didn't see it coming. I always say I think that I had a kind of like a delayed response as well, because it was almost like it happened out of nowhere with my mom. I mean, seemingly both of my parents, but more so with my mom. It was so out of nowhere. And then it's like, you go through all the business and like you're traveling. Now you have to like travel. Like there's all this stuff. And then that's a lot of like hoopla around the death and the business end of it and like loose ends and credit cards or whatever. And then by the time all of that stacks up, it's 6 months later. And you're like, so what happened?
Yeah,
And then you can start to think about those things. And it's like, I don't read a ton about like the science behind the brain, but I always say like I just would love to like hook someone's brain up after a sudden death and just like see like the processing response, because I'm with you in that way of like you kind of had to like wait some time to actually truly start processing what happened. You can't
yeah,
right away. It's like there's no way. It's too much information.
yeah. I don't think
You
our
know?
brains are meant to naturally do that, and yeah, we protect ourselves for a variety of different reasons to not overload our bodies
Right.
with sensation and emotion and things that it doesn't think we can handle. And thank God our bodies are smart enough to know us better than we know ourselves.
Right. Yeah, system overload, truly. So when you got back, you guys were like opening your gym, and I know that you did open, right? Because that
Yeah,
seemed very cool. What was like the layout of the gym? I couldn't really tell, but I knew that there was running involved.
yeah. So my dad and I were working on it together. We were partnering with a guy who had built out this revolutionary new treadmill technology,
Hmm.
which was essentially a treadmill that had a gigantic 85-inch screen in front of it that automatically sent a signal to the treadmill to go uphill and downhill based on the terrain you were running on. So it really
Oh, cool.
felt like a real outdoor running experience inside. So you could run on trails and different terrains and it was really dynamic. It would go like up and down rather quickly. And this was a really successful engineer who was doing this as a hobby or like a side project and brought together a really great team. And interestingly enough, Switch Connection, Roger was consulting
Oh,
for this guy.
okay. That's so funny. Names
So
from the past.
yeah, so Roger is was the former CEO of Switch Playground. Him and I stayed in contact post pandemic. I had told him for a while I wanted to open up a gym. He probably could tell like at the time of Switch that I was motivated to do something more than just be an instructor at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he was working with this guy, and I called Roger, and actually it was my dad. See, my dad just plays such a big role in like all of this, but my dad said, "Hey, call Roger, see what he's up to." And I called him, and that's how I found out about this treadmill gym, because he was consulting for the engineer who had built this. And essentially, as I was looking to open a gym, this guy who made these treadmills had a gym already that he was looking to basically give to someone to take over.
Okay.
And the gym just so happened to be on 27th Avenue, sorry,
Mhm.
27th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue. And
Great location.
I just happened to be moving a block away like in a week. And I'm like, this is just so good. This is just too good to be true. This is all like before my dad died,
Hmm.
but all these things just led up to me being like, okay, this is the gym I'm supposed to own and take
Yeah.
over. And yeah, lo and behold, we got we signed a lease, and we were ready to have like a soft opening, and my dad died. And when we got back, I we did the funeral and everything. And I remember Monday after all this had happened, I was like, wow, I'm so grateful that I have a place to go tomorrow to do what I love and to just have something to show up for
Hmm.
that's bigger than myself. Where even in this really tough time, I'm still gonna help people, and I'm still gonna be able to provide value and work in a meaningful way. And my brother at the time, he was starting his senior year of basketball, and it was his last season, so he had something to focus on, and it was just, I mean, I think everything is divine timing if you're really in that state of mind, and
Hmm.
it just felt like, okay, my dad died, but he knew we'd be okay, and it was at a time where we were taking on these projects. I mean, my brother was playing basketball and I was doing the gym, and it just felt like, okay, this is what we're supposed to do. Like, there's no
Yeah.
question. Because
Yeah.
I remember thinking, if I could do anything in the world this Monday, what would I want to do? And I think that's an important question to ask yourself all the time. Like, am I doing what I love? But it's especially important when something traumatic happens and it makes you rethink everything. And I thought, I'm literally going to my own gym that I own
Right.
on Monday to help people. Yeah, I'm doing it. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
go on vacation. I've already done the traveling. I've done all the stuff that people think that they want to do. Like, no, I have accomplished this goal of opening my own gym, and I'm about to go show up and teach the first official classes. That's my purpose. And yeah, we opened that next week, and essentially I was there, I don't know, almost every day of the year for the next year.
Yeah.
And we grew a great small community of people. It was a very tight knit, welcoming community where you came in and I was there every day. So people always saw me, and the people who came regularly all started to get to know each other. And that was how I envisioned it from the beginning. I wanted it to be this place where you came and you knew people and people talked to each other and it was friendly. And Switch inspired me a lot from the days that we worked there with the partners that worked together and the trainers in the room and the instructor. There was just, I mean, there was great energy.
Hmm.
And yeah, I wanted to bring that to my gym, and my time working at Rumble also inspired me to become a better teacher and just how to manage a room more. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. We closed essentially a little over a year after we opened,
Hmm.
and as short as that may have been, it felt like it was all the time that I needed, because
Mm.
it was really the time I got to help people but also grieve, and I literally talked about my dad every day because people come in and they say, "Who's Sid?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there was no hiding from my grief.
Right.
It was very present.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, just even the gym being named after him is like enough to be like, okay, like you're gonna think about that person, that event every day, and then people ask. But it's also just like, as someone who likes to grieve, in the emotional state alone, I don't like for people to hug me and then me cry, whatever. It is also so important to have people around you, and then also people ask you about your person, because I think that that's like a thing, especially when it's something really traumatic. Like, people don't want to ask, but sometimes it's like, no, I literally need to get this out, so someone ask me please, otherwise I'm going to start talking to the walls. Which is probably why I started a podcast, honestly. Okay. One thing I want to ask you before we wrap up. So the season is called We Listen and We Don't Judge, because I'm a millennial and I'm late to the trend, but I thought that it was so relatable to grief. Is there anything that you do in relationship to your dad or your grief with your dad that you think might be weird that you're willing to share?
Is there anything that I do in my grief process with my dad?
Either that or like with some of his things or like something that
Oh
you found
yes,
yourself doing where you're like, I don't know if this is normal. I'm just not gonna tell anybody.
yeah. Well, so this isn't weird, but it's been the greatest realization that I've had since he's died, which is one of the reasons I closed the gym is because I had to ask myself the hard questions. One being, why the heck am I standing in a gym that I own right now? How did I get here?
Mm,
Who am I? Why am I a gym owner? That is a very specific job title to have. Oh, okay. Well, my dad did put me in sports when I was a little kid. I didn't really choose that consciously. I think he sort of chose that for me, and that was my formative years. And so sports has always been a part of my life. But what else do I like? Like, who am I outside of what my dad sort of coached me to be? My dad was my coach my whole life and was a huge part of just turning me into the man I am today because he was present and he was guiding and I'm so grateful for it. But now that he's dead, I had to ask myself, who am I without him?
mm,
Who am I just me? Who is Ethan? And one of the things I learned is I have a creative side of myself, a artist side of myself, a side that wants to express. And one of those ways that I learned that I could do that was through writing and creating music. So this happened pretty early on. Maybe it took a few months, but I remember thinking, I need to grieve. How can I grieve alone and like feel these emotions? Because I had trouble feeling emotions for a long time until my dad died. So I'm like, let me start writing. And because I went to Israel, I I was gonna write a song, and I had never written a song before, and I was looking for a pen to write with. I couldn't find a pen in my room. I had my dad's Dob kit that he flew to Israel with, and I still have it in my room.
mm.
And essentially is, uh, I call it a Dob kit, but it's what's another word for it? Like what you put your uh, bathroom stuff in. I know there's another more
Oh,
popular word.
like a little toiletry kit?
Toiletry kit. Yeah, I don't know why we always called it a Dob kit. I don't even know what that stands for. Like, my mom knows what I'm
Someone will
talking
comment and be like, that's what this
about.
is.
Yeah, exactly. Dob kit. But so I still have that in my room today. And when I was writing the song, I found a pen in his Dob kit. One of many weird things. Well, actually, the pen was probably the most normal thing he had. But he had like an underwater camera in his bag. It was like the weird. He had like a razor, an underwater camera, like just interesting things in his bag. I'm like, okay, just again, very fitting for the story. And I take out the pen and I'm like, huh, this is really good inspiration for a song. Like, this is the last pen my dad had. And I wrote my first song basically in like 10 minutes. It just like all came out. So I think it might be fitting to share what I wrote here on the podcast to finish it off.
Oh my God, yes, please share.
Yeah? Okay.
Please. We have a big group of grieving writers who I think tune in or follow.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
so please share.
So this isn't the pen, but it was like I found this pen. I was like, all right, cool, that's right. This is the pen my dad died with, the one he cried with, flew down to Israel, laid down and lied with. Now I lay here and I write this with a feeling I can't even describe it. It might be easier to hide it or fight it, but I can no longer deny it. And I sit here ready to describe it, trying to empty myself of the things I no longer reside with. But too much pride sits underneath the layers. I have to sacrifice it. My life hits so differently now that I'm starting to like it. I was happy before, now I'm excited. Inspired by the world around me, my childhood memories finally found me, taking care of all who surround me. And if you listen soundly, you might hear the words to see yourself proudly. And I don't have to do this loudly, as long as you know that I'll never do it cowardly. And hourly, I get paid sourly, but I'm changing my narrative powerfully.
Yay! That's amazing. It was
Thank
like
you.
spoken word.
Yeah, a little
Oh,
poetry, little
yeah.
freestyle. It's like rap, hip hoppy, kind of just everything that I learned through growing up. And yeah, it was something that I never did. I never liked writing. I never did great in school and writing classes, but I'm like, I need to get this out somehow. And
Hmm.
write, like, speaking isn't enough, and like journaling is okay, but I need to like find a flow
Yeah.
and let it all just come out. And so yeah, writing has been the sort of weird thing that I've found. I guess I have somewhat of a natural talent because I never really practiced it.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's helped me a ton
Yeah.
to just process in a different way.
Yeah. And I think that that's like, it really is like a good way to end the episode of like, it's especially when you experience something so traumatic, so young. It's like it is never too late to like change your path and journey. Like, like you're an athletic guy, it'll always be a part of you, but it's like it is okay to like find other things that you enjoy because like life is fucking short. You know what I mean? Like,
Amen.
so, you know, th- there's nothing bad about finding other things. It's like you don't need to be one thing, like be well rounded, find other things you enjoy, especially because like you don't want to turn into like the little old man who's like, I wish I would have done that. It's like, so good for you to be like, what else am I good at? Like, absolutely. And I think that that's like a form of therapy. Like I absolutely turned to writing because it was like I could not speak. Like I was just so locked up here that like
Wow.
writing for me was absolutely a processing thing. So
Wow.
I say good job. And I think it's a good thing that you're a very like in tune person.
Thank
Like
you.
you are someone who is able to think big picture and process and whatever. I mean, some people like they don't have those tools in their toolbox. So it's, thank God you have those tools in your toolbox to be like, what else can I do? Especially young men. I mean, a lot of young men cannot figure that out. So
Yeah,
like you
thank
at
you.
least emotionally seem to have been set up to figure out how to process something so traumatic.
Thank
you
you.
know
You know,
so
I'm doing my
you
best.
yep, that's all you can do. It's like, and it's a lifelong journey. Like right now this is where you're at, and like next year I could talk to you and you'd be like, and now I'm actually
Yeah,
doing this with my
that's the goal.
grief because
That's the goal.
like it'll just always evolve. It'll just grow with you as you
Yeah.
age. But all right, well, I'm very happy that we had this episode. Um, can you tell our listeners one more time about your podcast where we could
Yes.
tune and listen to you some more?
Yes.
And then we'll wrap it up.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me and letting me share the story. It's a long story, and I gave as much detail as possible. But I think that is uh, a big part of what I went through, and the unique part of my specific story. And sometimes I think like no one wants to hear the story, but it's like no, it's a pretty freaking crazy story. Like people do want to hear that. It's like the part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a thing I need to get over.
It's
Uh,
your story. That's the
it's
thing,
my
it's your story. And it's
yeah,
okay
it's
to
my
tell that story.
yeah. Thank you for giving me the platform to do it, and thank you for giving everyone the platform to do this. This is so empowering and powerful for people. And even though I get to talk about this more than I would say 99% of people who are grieving, it still helps even me. So I can only imagine how many people are uh, being healed by sharing and even listening, because I've shared my story and that's helped someone heal in their own journey.
Hmm.
So yeah, shout out to you for starting this, and thank you. And my uh, just gratitude to you.
Thanks.
My pleasure. And my plug is the M and E show. So it's the EM and E show. It stands for Emily, who's my partner, and Ethan, which is my name. And we talk about a variety of different topics. We have literally talked about everything from death to art to conversation, just how to be a human. Uh, and we're learning every day how to do it better. And then one other thing to plug, because I think it's important for this podcast, is the run club that I started. I know we didn't really get
Oh,
into it.
yes. Oh my
Yeah,
God. I literally
yeah,
wanted to talk about the Run Club. Yes,
I know
please
that.
plug. Please plug
Yeah,
it.
essentially, I started a run club 3 months after my dad died for other people who were going through the death of a father. So it's called Dead Dad Run Club. Everyone always used to talk about the Dead Dad Club and how sad it was. And I was like, well, if there's going to be a sad club, let me at least make a club where people are going to come together and do some positive stuff. So I just added the word run to Dead Dad Club, and now it's Dead Dad Run Club. We meet every Sunday morning in Central Park at 9 a.m. We run a 5K. We talk about whatever we want to talk about and just heal and grow together. So if anyone's in New York, we're going to expand it, hopefully. And
I was gonna say, if you ever want to come Dead Dad Run Club in Philly, I will help
well,
you.
hey,
But we
we
all
might.
know I hate running. I always say couldn't pay me, but as a member of the Dead Dad Club, I will Dead Dad walk behind the Runners
we
Club.
do have we do have we do have walkers as well, and I one thing I've learned from the run club is there's talking about your story, whatever you're going through is important. There's something even more magical about talking about it while in motion. There's
Mm,
like this feeling of moving forward, even if it's a walk. A run is even more intense, right? Because you're like, oh my God, I'm running and I'm talking about this intense thing that I can't even normally talk about. And now I'm freaking running and doing it.
yeah.
It's really empowering for people to just move through their grief, like physically and emotionally.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's been such a blessing for me to have started that. I started with a childhood friend of mine, Sebastian, who's been my co-founder and has showed up every week with me. So it's been beautiful. And yeah, if we do plan on having other people run the club in other cities, so Philly is
Well,
not too
call
far.
me up. I've got a whole
I'll let you know.
slew of people here in the
Oh my
Dead Dad
God.
Club.
Yes,
So
we're looking to expand. So yeah, let's talk
yeah,
about
we'll
that.
chat. Yeah, we gotta have you on another day and get more specific about, movement with grief. Because
Yeah.
it's the only therapy I actually have stuck with. So we'll have to have
Yeah.
another episode one day where we chat
Let's-
about it.
I would love that. And yeah, stay moving. Don't get
That's
stuck.
it.
Don't get stuck.
That's it. Mind, body, breath. That's all you can do. You know?
Amen. Thank you,
All
Bonnie.
right, Ethan, have a fabulous rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody who's listening, make sure you tune into the podcast. Follow Ethan on all social media platforms so you can keep up with the Dead Dad Run Club and your new venture of writing. I'm very excited for you.
Yeah. Look out for that. That's coming. That's coming.
Good. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.